Welcome to Pray for Rain. I'm Jack Willis. And the other day I was scrolling my YouTube feed, as I often do, and I realized just how many subscriptions I have accumulated over the years. I mean, hundreds, if not 1,000, odds and ends things that I don't remember at all. People that renovate vans, to financial minimalists, to autistic guys making bridge projects in their garage, all kinds of weird stuff. But these things represented something I was interested in at some point, something I wanted to see more of, or I thought, yeah, I want to be a part of this. So I'm going to subscribe, and I would like to see more of this daily. I want to be invested in this thing. And it occurred to me that all of my interests now, almost all of my interests, are represented by a person. There's a face or there's a human attached to this thing that I am interested in. If it's woodworking, if it's finances, if it's, I don't know, something else, there's a face and a name attached to that almost before the interest. And I don't know if it's always been that way, because I'm thinking to prior to the mainstream internet age, if you were interested in something, you would join some sort of group, a club. You might be a part of a newsletter. There might be a blog that you'd go visit. You could talk with people on the phone about it. You would have, sometimes there were TV networks, entire channels, TV channels dedicated to this stuff, right? So we had the travel channel, the cooking channel, HGTV, and they're interest-based channels, right? They'd show segments around something that you wanted to see, and they'd have hosts come on. Like if you watched HGTV, they would renovate some house in upstate New York, and it's a host and it's a production, and you can tell that's going on. And when the segment ends and the camera shut off, this guy's going home, and it's closed for business. But something about people doing it on YouTube, it certainly doesn't feel that way, but I can't see the strings of this puppeteering project. Like I can't understand that it's a production in real time. Whenever I watch this stuff, it feels like these cameras go home with them, but they're not really there. And this is how they live their life. And what it leads me to feel is some guilt. I'll feel guilt and envy. I will feel that, man, look at this life. I'll be envious of something that I don't even really want. Like I'll see a video of a guy starting a coastal clam farm or something like that, and I'll think, God, that's cool that he's doing that. Look, he just did it, and he's just a guy out there with a camera. It's so accessible. Why aren't you doing something like that? And I'll actively feel guilty for something I probably don't want, because this guy is taken just a camera and himself and put it on there on YouTube, and he's getting some sort of reaction from the internet. And I won't think about all of the things that are probably going on inside him, all of the banal critiques he has of himself, all of the worries and doubts that we all experience. He's probably the same amount of mildly miserable or mildly happy the rest of us are, just worried about his viewership, not making enough money from this thing, being sick of smelling like clams, all this kind of thing that I'm not giving any consideration for. But in the moment when I'm scrolling my feed, I don't see that. I just see this guy who's doing this thing and getting this response. And then that's the entire feed. Like that's the project. Every day I'm going through and I'm seeing person after person doing a thing that I am interested in and seemingly making some sort of life out of it. And that's an exercise I'm doing every day. I'm training my brain for this cycle of envy that is terrible. And it didn't really happen. I was younger then too, but I don't think it happened when I was watching Mythbusters or some show. Like I wasn't actively upset that I wasn't a production assistant. I wasn't a prop maker for Adam Savage or something like that. Like I saw that there was a difference between what these people and this network was doing and the life I wanted to live. And with YouTube, it's not like that. I'm part of this chimpanzee experiment, or I'm the monkey in this experiment rather, and YouTube knows that. And so daily, me, monkey, will log on and I'll be shown other monkeys doing things that I want to do. You know, so a monkey water skiing, and then one restoring a van that he's going to drive across America. And I'll think, yeah, monkey like, sign this monkey up for some more of that. And I will subscribe, and I'll subscribe. And then they'll give me more things and more monkeys doing interesting stuff. And I will, I'll log in daily to be a part of this experiment. Every day I am, you know, it's apt that they call it a feed because it's really this trough of envy, and I will gorge myself on it daily. This is happening every single day. And it's pretty brutal when I take a step back that I'm actively training my brain to do this all the time. And I'm not totally sure what to do about it, but something about this problem, I think, really hits the male mind. I think that men, this is a personal theory of mine, it's a working theory. I think that all men have a latent amount of autism, just a tad bit of autism. It is a spectrum that begins at XY, I think. And something about YouTube it seems like it has the secrets of the universe to men. It's like this user manual. It has everything, every sort of system or thing you've wanted to analyze, take apart, or understand how it works. It's on YouTube. And this can apply to Instagram, and certainly can apply to women too, but I think this is a more male-centric problem. I think the viewership on YouTube is like 60% male, although, you know, I would think it's higher than that, because every time I'm out in public and I see a guy watching something on his phone, he's watching something on YouTube, almost a guarantee. And if a woman's watching something, it's not always YouTube. It's something I don't recognize, or it's Netflix, or something different. It's Instagram. It's always YouTube for a man. And there's also an unwritten rule that if you see a group of men getting together and they're in a circle, they're talking about something, you know, X number of minutes have to pass before a reference to a YouTube video is made. Like, that will happen. Men get together and some law of the universe dictates that they have got to reference a YouTube video that they had seen and ask if this guy's seen it. And they talk about, oh yeah, I see what this guy's doing. Yeah, for sure. Which is funny because I can never actually recall a time where I referenced a YouTube video to a woman and said, hey, yeah, did you see this thing on YouTube? Where she said yes. Almost never. I can't remember a time when she's like, oh yeah, I saw that thing that you mentioned. No, it doesn't happen. But when I get together with my male friends, you're talking about YouTube. You're talking about YouTube and you're referencing that, and they recognize that. So something about this male autism is tickled by YouTube. And I think it brings men to YouTube feeds more, and they express their interests and follow their interests based on YouTube and based on these people and personalities. So it's this odd interplay between a man's desire to figure something out and people producing this for us to consume on YouTube. And it's interesting because I think it extends to young men, not young men, kids, because my buddy's kid I think he's 5 years old, and he'll put on a YouTube video on an iPad for him of a toy Tonka truck moving blocks from one pile to another. That's it. And this kid is f***ing riveted. He will sit there for hours and just watch as a Tonka truck is moving blocks from pile A to pile B in a way that if you put a little girl down to watch the same video, it would be functionally invisible to her. She just wouldn't see anything interesting, and she would go about her day, because I feel like women have better things to do. You know, they're maintaining healthy relationships, or they're typically more concerned with relational things and people. And so it plays out on YouTube for young kids, young boys, which is interesting to me, because I saw this video of, it would have been a basketball team. It was a promotional video by a basketball team. And they had this young boy, sitting down at a table with him. He had won some chance to meet the players, and there's a couple of players sitting there talking to him. He's maybe 8, 9, 10, something like that. And they ask him, they're trying to connect, like, what cartoons do you watch? He says, cartoons? Yeah, what cartoons do you like to watch? Cartoons? What are cartoons? He didn't know what cartoons were. And so this basketball player's reciting networks, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, SpongeBob, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And finally it clicks in this kid's head what he's talking about, animation. He says, oh, like YouTube. And so even for this kid, entertainment was just represented by YouTube and individual channels on YouTube. And then he starts saying stuff that I don't understand, Roblox, loot chests, I don't know what. But I thought, man, that's kind of sad. That's sad because you don't have that shared narrative. And that is another thing that YouTube does. It just atomizes us. We have all of these interests and people we follow, these things that are represented by people that push us to very unique corners of the internet so that we don't have that shared thing. And kids don't have that shared thing as much anymore. I can remember on NBC, on Thursday nights on NBC, that was the big night for television because I think The Office had gotten moved from Tuesday to Thursday nights, and Heroes was on, maybe Lost. I'm not sure the shows, but the heavy hitters were on Thursday night. So you'd watch those shows on Thursday night, and then you would talk about it the next day, but you'd get together, like it was kind of a family viewing night, and it was great. And I'm sad that kids don't have that as much. I mean, sure, you can sit down and stream something to your family, and kids do that, but it's not the same thing woven in our society or in our culture for everyone. Like, I know that little boys in Ohio and Florida are probably watching some of the same YouTube videos. They're obsessed with Mr. Beast, I'm sure, but I don't think that they have the same cultural touch points. It's not the same big movie events. It's not the same shows. And as fantastic as I think YouTube is for so many things, it's really like a fractal machine. It splits everything into creators and niches and sub niches and people giving reactions of reactions of reactions all the time, in a way that I think it makes it harder for us to have a shared plot. And I don't know what to do about it, because YouTube is fantastic for so many things. Like, if you need to learn something, you can find it on YouTube. I've learned how to do home restoration things, interesting things with technology and programs. If you have a Ukrainian dishwasher from the 90s that needs a belt replaced, there is a middle-aged guy who has shown you how to do that on YouTube. He thought people need this, and I am going to upload a very stiff video of myself giving formal instructions on how to do that. And he was right. Someone did you that. Someone did need that, and they were very appreciative of it. And I think that's great. And I want to keep using YouTube for all the wonderful things that it offers, all of these like interests I was talking about, but I don't know exactly what to do about the fact that all of the things I'm interested in start with the question of, who do you follow? If I'm talking about it with a group of friends and they say, oh, you're into woodworking, who are you into? Is that bad? I don't know. I think if you get in front of people enough times and you're kind of engaging this with others, it's probably not. But if you're just doing all this stuff unto yourself on YouTube all the time, it's probably not good. And what am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about the fact that everything is becoming more atomized and I feel like a chimpanzee in a cocaine experiment every time I log into my feed? I don't know. I'm going to become an Anatolian shepherd and cut off my dick. I'm going to become a sexless villager and sleep under the stars. Short of that, I will try and be a bit more intentional, I think, about coming to YouTube, maybe trimming my feed down a little bit. They actually have plugins that will alter your YouTube homepage, your feed. I think it will have less suggestive videos or something, so I might explore some of that. But I'm going to try and be a bit more intentional, not have YouTube on my phone, and I want to keep in the forefront of my mind that all these people that I'm seeing that are putting out this stuff are producing something to be consumed, and that they are, dare I say, like me. They have the same sorts of worries and concerns, and their life is not, all their problems have not been solved because they decided to renovate a van and drive across the United States. They are still as mildly miserable as the rest of us. But speaking of things that made me not mildly miserable, I can't remember which streaming platform it's on now, but The Green Mile is streaming right now. It's either Netflix or HBO Max, speaking of atomized viewing platforms, one of those. And I rewatched it for the first time in maybe 15 years. It is a great movie. And I noticed some things that were interesting in this viewing that I didn't really notice when I was younger. So it's a movie based on the book by Stephen King, and this is spoiler alert because I'm going to give you the plot of this thing. But it's a great movie. I would encourage you to watch that even after this. It takes place in the Deep South in the 30s, and I don't think they really tell us where. Some Louisiana, Alabama, something like that. And it takes place at this prison. I think it's called the Cold Mountain Prison. And we've got guards there. Tom Hanks is the lead guard of the prison, and it's a death row prison. So people are sent there if they're going to be executed. And at this prison, they've got a rogues gallery of full-time prisoners there. They get a new prisoner. John Coffey is his name, and he's played by Michael Clark Duncan, who's already this enormous dude, but they make him to be even bigger in the film. So he's this 7-foot hulking black guy who is convicted of the double rape and murder of 2 young girls in the Deep South in the 1930s. He's wrongfully convicted, but nobody knows that. And he's sent to, I guess you'd call it the Green Mile. I'm not actually sure what that's a reference to. Maybe I need to think on it more. There's a deeper symbolism there. But he's sent to this prison, and he slowly starts to develop a relationship with the guards. They're pretty cordial with Mr. Coffey, and he will start doing little miracles throughout the movie, right? So the guards will notice weird things going on with Coffey. He's this gentle giant. Like, how could he really murder these 2 girls? He did not. He was found with them in his arms. They're bloodied in his arms. But he'll start doing these little miracles, right? He's able to take away sickness from people and things. So he brings this kind of this insane prisoner who's dealing with all kinds of things, who has some sweet side to him, has this pet mouse, and he develops this relationship with this mouse, and this evil Joffrey-like prison guard kills his mouse, and John Coffey brings it back to life. So he grabs this mouse and he brings it up to his mouth, and he sucks out the illness, and it comes out as this cloud of gnats. And he takes his pestilence onto himself, and it's very biblical. And so he'll do these things. And one of the things he does is Tom Hanks has a bladder infection, and it's debilitating him. He can barely walk. He's sweating. It's terrible. And Coffey notices this. And at some point, Tom Hanks is walking past Coffey's cell, and he reaches out and grabs him by the throat and lifts him into the air. And then he thrusts his massive hand onto his balls and begins groping him furiously. He's massaging this illness out, ostensibly. He's massaging this illness out of Tom Hanks through his balls. And there's another guard who's just caught off guard. He doesn't know what to do, but he's kind of looking at the situation, about to approach, and then doesn't, for some unspeakable reason. He doesn't go up and immediately shoot Coffey, this 7-foot black guy who's about to snap the neck of this guard and then rip off his dick. I don't know. But he's just awestruck. And then Coffey does the same thing as he did for the mouse. He sucks out these moths that come out of this guy's mouth, and his bladder infection, he's cured. He's now fine. And he puts him down, and Tom Hanks is great. And then he goes home, and he has sex with his wife a bunch of times, and the movie's very intent on making sure that we know that Tom Hanks is back. He's still got it. He's got it again. So his crotch, everything's cured, things are great. And Tom Hanks gets it in his mind that, well, I should say before this, there's a warden for the prison at Cold Mountain. And I can't remember the actor's name. It's the guy who played the farmer in Babe, which is embarrassing because I know he's done plenty of stuff other than that, but that's what comes to mind. He's the warden. And the warden has a sick wife. She has a brain tumor. She is terminally ill. And she is losing her life rapidly. And it's sad because they're all friends with the warden and the warden's wife. And Tom Hanks gets it into his mind that John Coffey should help the warden's wife. Now, the warden doesn't know anything about this stuff that's going on. He doesn't know anything about the crotch healing or the mouse. And all the guards are outside in a sultry southern afternoon drinking sweet tea. And Tom Hanks says to the other guards, I think we should take Coffey to see the warden's wife. And they say, no, Tom Hanks, you're crazy. We can't do that. We can't take John Coffey, break him out of prison. The warden wouldn't let so much as a witch doctor within a quarter mile of his wife. And Tom Hanks says, no, we got to do it. And they say, okay. So they, without much protest, they agree that we're going to break out this convicted double rape, double homicide, massive black guy from prison. And we are going to take him to the warden's wife at in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. And we're not really going to tell the warden what's going on. But before they can do that, there's that Joffrey-esque prison guard that they have to throw in a padded cell and lock in there because he's the evilest person ever, and he happens to be the nephew of somebody. Anyways, they throw him in a padded room. But if you watch the movie, this guy is Matthew McConaughey's evil twin. If things went terrible for McConaughey, that is how he would have ended up. So just think of that if you watch this movie. Anyways, they get Coffey out of the prison. They throw him in the back of this truck, and at 2 a.m., they drive him to the warden's house. And the truck pulls up outside, and it's dark. There's a moon outside, and the headlights are flashing on the warden's porch. And he comes outside. He sees the ruckus, and he comes out, and he's got a shotgun. And he can't see who's there because he's blinded by the lights. He says, "Who goes there? Who is it?" And he begins to see that Tom Hanks is there with a shotgun, and then there's another guard with a shotgun. And then he looks over, and then he looks behind that, and then he can see John Coffey, this absolute mountain of man, in the back of a fucking Apple truck, standing up there. And the warden says, "Are you all right? Are you taken hostage?" Like, he cannot for the life of him understand why this guy is out there, which is a totally reasonable thing to wonder. But nobody tells him why. They don't say a damn word to him about what's going on. And you can hear his wife yelling from upstairs. She's got this tumor and she's not making any sense. What's going on? Ah! She's in this terrible pain, and there's this commotion that's agitating her. And the warden's got a shotgun on Coffey, and he's shaking. And Coffey steps down from this truck, and he's just eclipsing the moon. He is enormous. And nobody says anything to the warden. They're kind of giving some reassuring looks, but he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know that they're there to take out a brain tumor with a convict. Like, this guy's actually a murdering psychic. Like, they don't know. He hasn't said anything. Nobody said anything. So he walks up to the warden slowly. He's stepping towards him, and the warden's shaking with his gun, and he's shaking. And then Coffey just says, "It's all right. It's all right," and reaches for the shotgun and grabs the shotgun and takes it away from the warden. So the warden has just allowed this dude to disarm him in the middle of the night among these guards. And then still no one's talking. And then they all turn to go inside. And John Coffey is going up the stairs, and everyone turns, and the warden's following him up the stairs. And the only thing that I could think that the warden would be thinking at that moment, given the circumstance, he has got to be thinking that John Coffey is going to f*** my wife. This convicted rapist and murderer is either going to cuck my wife or kill her. And in either case, the warden was down with it. He is a bit of a freak. This guy either wants to be cucked by the biggest, blackest criminal in the state of Louisiana, or he wants his wife to be murdered. I couldn't square any other scenario. But he's just following them up. Again, nobody said anything up until this point. And they get up into the room, and he's a real freak because there's like 4 guys standing around this bed, and John Coffey is walking over to the bed, and he sits down next to the warden's wife. And she's almost gone. There's these dark circles under her eyes, and it almost looks like she's possessed. There's sweat in the bed, and she's not making any sense, and she's yelling all these profanities, and rightfully scared from her point of view. These 5 guys have just brought in this death row inmate to sit on her bed without a word of preamble. Even if you have a brain tumor, that's a very rational reaction. But again, nobody said anything. They're all watching, and the warden is still tacitly giving his consent, watching this going on. And he's thinking, okay, here we go. And Coffey opens his mouth wide. He says something to her, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. Then he opens his mouth and goes in for what the warden can only think is some mouth-to-mouth freaky stuff. Oh yeah, Coffey. Oh yeah. Take her, Coffey. But then he does the mouth-to-mouth and pulls the illness from her. The same thing as the mouse. He pulls out this cloud of moss, and he cures her. He sucks all this illness into himself, and Coffey is just taken down by this. He's absolutely struck by lightning because it's so painful for him. And then the life comes back to the warden's wife's eyes. The color comes back to her skin, and everything is healing in her. And then I'm thinking that the warden at this point must be like, oh, of course, the tumor. Yes. Looking around at the guards. Of course, that's why you thank the Lord that allowed you in here to heal my wife's debilitating brain tumor. I am so thankful, Coffey, that you were able to deliver this treatment to her. Thank you so much for bringing him here. And he had no idea. He had no reason to think that at any point. Now, maybe the book is different, but I am watching this movie thinking, this guy is a fucking freak. This dude wanted his wife to be, he wanted to be cucked, or he wanted his wife to be executed so he didn't have to deal with her illness in either case. So I don't even know what to make of that. I would encourage you to just watch the movie because it is a great movie. It's a great movie. It's 3 hours long, but at the zenith of the movie, it didn't play out like I had remembered it playing out as a much younger person. But I think that's all I have on my mind right now. It's a wonderful way to end. But watch that movie. Give it a second and a third shot. Really understand the nuances of the warden's dilemma. And until next time, here's praying for rain.